Hello, fellow gamers. This is Tim, Samwise7, and I want to talk about some of the Midnight Splat books. Some of the extra books that the Midnight setting has put out. Um, I've always been intrigued by the setting, as I've said previously, and while I don't have all of the Splat books, because I know there's a fair number of them, I have a few of them. So I want to talk a little bit about those ones. The first one is Crown of Shadow. Some nice artwork on there. Crown of Shadow is essentially an introductory campaign for the Midnight setting, and when I ran it, I found it particularly brutal, especially the ending. The ending has left some memories in some of the players' minds, but in my mind, that's a good thing. It kind of brings about the brutality of the setting, introduces you to different factions, different races. And it's a nice little travel exploration campaign. Yeah, and it's brutal, like like I said before. But Midnight's a little tricky to start a campaign in. At least I found it to be. And I think I find that out with most of the settings that I like because they have interesting things and they're kind of quirky. So I don't know. For a good introductory campaign, I think this is one to go to start with, and feel free to branch off of it. I read through this adventure, and at the time I knew I was going to not be able to play or run on my Monday campaign anymore, so I wanted to go out with a bang. So I used this, and yeah, it left an impression. So Crown of Shadows, or Crown of Shadow, is an interesting adventure module for the Midnight setting. It's worth checking out. So that's the first one. Hand of Shadow. I always like the artwork in these books. They're kind of dark. They're usually black and white, but it seems to fit the setting. And Hand of Shadow is basically your portal into running evil campaigns in the Midnight setting. And in that way, I think it's more akin to a normal setting in a weird way, because in most settings, good is supposedly, that's everything runs by good means. It's like you have the standard of the cities and everything being run by humans and so forth, and you have to, the monsters are attacking, you got to defend the cities. But in Midnight, it's topsy turvy. When evil, deity runs everything, and there's evil government bureaucrats all over the place, and evil soldiers. To run an evil campaign is, you're supposed to run Midnight, as, you're the freedom fighters and you're losing all hope and despair. And as evil characters, it has an interesting vibe. It's not like a normal evil campaign that you would run in a normal fantasy setting. It's almost like the fantasy setting is designed for this. And I had a lot of fun with it. In fact, I had fun in my one campaign where I had the players playing the freedom fighters on one hand, and then half the time, or maybe a third of the time, I would go, okay, and I'd pass out all the different evil characters and say, okay, now forget what you just role played for 2 hours. Now we're going to see the other side of the coin. And they had a lot. At fun, it was kind of awkward. They're like, I don't know if I really want to do this, and then they had a blast with it. So running evil campaigns, while can be kind of problematic for GMs, are fun to do from time to time, especially if you have a lot of angst from work, or you're feeling you have some other issues you want to work out. But it's very interesting, and they give you ideas like rank as far as how different races that don't normally get along can get along. It's called a shadow campaign. So it's worth checking out. I picked it up. I thought that was interesting. And like I said, when I ran Midnight, I used the World of Darkness, and this was kind of fun for that, especially when they were all running orcs and legate characters. So Hand of the Shadow. Next one is Minions of the Shadow. And everything's kind of dark, but I guess that kind of fits. Basically, this goes through, it's almost like a small bestiary of the Midnight setting. It has some of the demons that have been trapped on the mortal plane, some of the creatures, some of the monsters, and they have several interesting NPCs that you can plop into your game. Yeah, most of them are orcs. There's a few legates, and I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, you can always use an extra monster manual, essentially. And the last one I only have 4 of the Splat books. And like I said, I want to get more of them. The last one is Under the Shadow. And Under the Shadow, I think, would probably be the best for running a long-term campaign. It's set in Baden's Bluff, which is one of the cities that, while it has been taken over by the Shadow, it has a strong kind of holdout population of those that don't want to bow before Iserdor and his government. So you kind of skulk around and you're hanging out in these really crappy places of the city that, while there are orc patrols going around, you can kind of you have a little bit more freedom than most cities. It's the way they lay out the city nicely. They have different NPCs, who runs everything, different sample, adventure spots, and kind of funny story about Baden's Bluff when I ran it is that so I told everybody, you know what, I'm gonna run a city campaign. I'm gonna try to run like an urban campaign, and I'm gonna set it in the midnight setting, and so that worked out for about 3 sessions, and then they left Baden's Bluff, and pretty much all my GM prep went out the window. So that was interesting, but that just goes to show you that players don't always do what you expect them to or want them to sometimes. But again, that's what collaborative storytelling. That's what role playing is. You see what happens. So while at the time I was a little like, oh crap, I don't have anything prepped for anywhere else, it worked out, and I don't know. So those are 4 books that you can get for the midnight setting. There are definitely more of them. I just don't happen to have them, and I don't have any opinions on them, other than I wanted to put them on my shelves. So, midnight setting, it's dark, it's grim. Check out the review I did of the midnight setting previously, and enjoy. Happy gaming.